Federer's accusation about Alcaraz and Sinner. The Swiss accuses the tournaments of slowing down the courts to boost the rivalry between the Mercian and the Italian. The rivalry between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner is destined to define an era in world tennis. They have already faced each other in 5 finals of the most recent major tournaments: Rome, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, Cincinnati and the US Open, consolidating themselves as the biggest attraction on the circuit. However, for Roger Federer this phenomenon is not a coincidence, but the result of a strategy that could be benefiting the 2 most dominant players today. Federer points at the tournaments. In statements collected by the Italian outlet Corriere during Andy Roddick's podcast Served, Federer issued a warning that has stirred controversy. "I understand the tournament directors who, following instructions, try to make the surfaces slower. This gives an advantage to those who need to hit extraordinary winners to beat Sinner, whereas if the court is fast, they can hit a couple at the right moment and move forward. The tournament directors think, I prefer to have Sinner and Alcaraz in the final. In a way, it works for tennis." The Swiss's words point directly to a possible preferential treatment for the Mercian and the Italian, who perform better in slower conditions. By slowing down the surface and standardizing the pace of matches, a favorable stage would be set for both to prolong their dominance. The loss of diversity on the circuit. Federer, one of the great defenders of offensive play and fast surfaces, regrets that there is less and less difference between tournaments. "In my time, only 12 tournaments really mattered, so each player played on his favorite surface, and sometimes they didn't face each other. Those were the best matches, attacker against counterattacker. Now, however, everyone plays similarly, and this is because the tournament directors have allowed the speed of the balls and courts to make every week practically the same," he reflected. For the former number 1, the ideal would be to recover more extreme scenarios, very fast surfaces versus especially slow courts, so that the clashes between the best take place under different conditions. That way, the spectacle would be greater and the Alcaraz-Sinner rivalry would have even more nuances. A warning that opens debate. Federer's message comes at a time when Alcaraz and Sinner seem unstoppable in the ATP ranking, monopolizing finals and titles. The Swiss's warning puts the spotlight on tournament management and opens the debate on whether modern tennis has lost variety in favor of greater continuity of its stars. This is how Alcaraz will return to the ATP circuit in the Tokyo tournament. We reveal the schedule, dates, main rivals, prize money and much more about the tournament Carlos has chosen to begin the Asian swing. After the exciting experience of the 2025 Laver Cup, Carlos Alcaraz returns to the ATP circuit and does so by changing scenery at the start of the Asian swing. In recent seasons, the Mercian had chosen Beijing as the place to kick things off, even winning the title last year after a stellar final against Jannik Sinner. This season we will not see a fratricidal duel between the world number 1 and 2, while Jannik sticks to his roadmap. The Mercian has chosen the 2025 ATP Tokyo to begin his path on a new continent. Between September 24th and 30th we will witness all the excitement of the best tennis at an ATP Tokyo 2025 in which Carlos Alcaraz is the firm favorite for the title. It will also be the first event in which he competes as the world number 1 after regaining the top spot, an extra incentive to start strong in a part of the season that has always left the player from El Palmar with bittersweet feelings. Despite featuring only 4 top 20 players, the Japanese tournament has always been a classic on the circuit, contested by some of the sport's greatest legends and where Carlitos wants to leave his mark for the first time. Strange dates that we will have to get used to if we want to follow this tournament with interest. The expansion of the Shanghai Masters 1000 into a week-and-a-half long event has led the ATP to squeeze the rest of the tourneys in the swing as if it were a sandwich, forcing both Beijing and Tokyo to begin midweek and to hold their finals on working days. Thus, the action in the main draw will begin next Wednesday, September 24th, and conclude with the final on Tuesday, September 30th. The title match will start at 6 p.m. local time, that is, 11 a.m. Spanish time, with a time difference of 7 hours. Each day will therefore start around 4 a.m., 11 a.m. Japanese time, and, in principle, consist of 3 matches in the daytime session and 2 in the night session, which will also start around 11 a.m. Spanish time. It is expected that we will have to wake up early to watch Carlos's matches, although most should coincide with prime time in the second session of the day. As it is an ATP 500 without buys, with a 32-player draw, the Mercian will debut on Thursday and return to action on Saturday, then play without rest days if he advances, quarterfinals on Sunday, semifinals on Monday and final on Tuesday. Draw, main rivals and when Carlos Alcaraz will play at the ATP Tokyo 2025. What seemed to be an impressive lineup of stars has ended up being a solid but not so dazzling field. The consequences of the 2025 US Open and the demands of the season have been devastating for the tournament in the land of the rising sun, which has lost Ben Shelton, Jack Draper and Jiri Lehecka to injuries. Only 4 top 20 players will compete, all of them coming directly from the Laver Cup in San Francisco: Carlos Alcaraz, Taylor Fritz, Holger Rune and Casper Ruud. These are the main rivals of a Carlos who has had some luck with the draw, avoiding possible dark horses in the early rounds. He will debut against Argentine Seba Baez, who has barely won 3 matches since April. In the second round he will face the winner of Zizou Berg's Alejandro Tabilo, with the Chilean being a very dangerous contender due to his current form. He just reached the Chengdu final. In the quarterfinals Francis Tiafoe looms, who historically complicates things for him but is in terrible shape, and in the semifinals names like Casper Ruud or Denis Shapovalov may appear. Shocking message from Taylor Fritz to Alcaraz. The world number 5 finally managed to beat Carlos Alcaraz, and he did so convincingly. The American not only won, but also confessed what the key was to achieving what no one had managed in months: dismantling the world's number 1. In San Francisco, Taylor Fritz signed one of the most important victories of his career by defeating Carlos Alcaraz 6-3, 6-2 on the second day of the 2025 Laver Cup. With this result, Team World struck a blow against Europe and the Chase Center roared with the Californians' triumph. The American played with a very clear plan: to take advantage of slow court conditions and press with his shots from the very first point. I knew that if I wasn't aggressive, he was going to dominate me, he explained afterward in a press conference. And the result was perfect. He controlled the rallies, took risks when he had to and, above all, didn't hesitate on the big points. For Fritz, it wasn't just about beating Alcaraz, it was about proving that, when he trusts his tennis, he can stand toe-to-toe with the best player in the world. What's most interesting is that Fritz admitted that the key to this victory actually came from his defeat at Wimbledon just a few months ago. There, in the semifinals, he had Alcaraz against the ropes, even with set point to force a 5th set. But he didn't dare to take that extra step. I was too conservative on the big points. Today I changed it. If I miss, I miss, but I'm going to take risks, he confessed. That change in mentality is what allowed him to overwhelm Carlitos this time. Fritz made it clear that it's no longer enough to wait for the opponent to make mistakes, especially against the best. You have to go for the point, even in the moments of greatest tension. And that was his biggest personal victory. That's why he described this triumph as one of the most special of his career. I'm even more proud of this one, because I feel like I earned it from start to finish. Alcaraz's defeat hurts Team Europe, but it sends a clear message: Taylor Fritz is ready to play head-to-head with the giants of the circuit. He learned at Wimbledon, he took risks in San Francisco and, for the first time, he celebrated against the world number 1. The Laver Cup has shown that, even in the reign of Alcaraz and Sinner, there are still players willing to challenge that dominance. And Fritz has just raised his hand strongly. Carlos Alcaraz is betrayed in San Francisco. Carlos Alcaraz won his 2 matches on the final day of the Laver Cup. However, the defeats of Jakub Mensik and Alexander Zverev in the rest of the day's matches gave victory to Team World. Carlos Alcaraz is human, or at least that's what he showed in the Laver Cup, where after some incredible months we finally saw him put an end to his streak. Team Europe arrived in San Francisco with a much stronger squad on paper and the omnipresent figure of the world number 1 as their big hope, yet the Chase Center delivered its verdict and in the end it was Team World who prevailed. After the first 5 editions went to the old continent, 3 of the last 4 have gone to the 2025 champions. The victory was built on Saturday after winning all 4 matches, with special interest in Taylor Fritz's thrashing of Alcaraz in straight sets. But nothing was sealed yet, as Sunday's victories were worth 3 points each. To attempt a comeback, Europe leaned on its leader, placing the Mercian in the doubles match that opened the day and in one of the singles matches. Alongside him was Casper Ruud to face Riley Opelka and Alex Michelsen, in addition to his singles duel against Fran Cerundolo, while Jakub Mensik would challenge Alex de Minaur and Sasha Zverev would face Taylor Fritz. Alcaraz cannot do it alone. The final result was as painful as possible. Carlitos did everything in his power, earning 2 victories that added 6 points to Europe's tally, but the rest of the team didn't back him up. To open the final day, the Spanish-Norwegian duo steamrolled the Yankees in straight sets, 7-6 and 6-1, opening the door for a potential fight back and above all, allowing hope that the feat, though very complicated, was possible. Until de Minaur comfortably beat Mensik 6-3, 6-4, forcing all the remaining matches to go Europe's way. It was Alcaraz's turn, who after shaking off Saturday's loss in doubles came into his duel against Fran Cerundolo full of confidence. Cerundolo had destroyed Holger Rune earlier, but against the Mercian it was another story. as a superb Alcaraz closed the match quickly, 6-2 and 6-1. His job was done, and done brilliantly, but now Zverev had to beat the MVP of the tournament, Taylor Fritz. It was not to be, as the San Diego native maintained his stellar level and with a 6-3, 7-6 gave Team World the necessary points, sealing the triumph and reclaiming the Laver Cup crown they had lost a year earlier.